Hello, this is Jonathan at the piano lesson. We're back again. And I had a nice time last Saturday. I had my trio playing at Conway's House of Jazz, and we had a good time with the inimitable Kurt Deutscher on drums and the remarkable Ken Ono on bass. We had a good time. First time we ever played together, and it kind of gelled, and we were real happy about it. And people seem to like it, so we're going to do more of it. We have a couple other gigs, one in October, I think, another in November, and who knows, maybe we'll do something in between. And although I got to tell you, after the night was done, it was about 3 hours, I guess 2 hours of music total, actual playing, but I was wiped out. And I was wiped out partly because when I play, I put everything in it, and partly because I'm still struggling with this long COVID, and it just felt like I was in a bar fight and I had a hangover. I took me a good couple days to recover. So taking a lot of Chinese herbs, and hopefully that'll help me as well. And what else was I going to mention? Oh yes, we're back. I kind of had to tear apart my studio here, so I have a new setup, and so you can let me know how it sounds right now. I kind of using my old Aphex IN2 audio interface, and I have a couple of omnidirectional lavaliers. I have one on me and then one in the piano, which I think sounds kind of interesting. But I was using my super duper MyTech ADC that they don't make anymore, an analog to digital converter, which I used on my gig because I have a cool little recording setup that I put together. I have a Tascam DA3000. Now they have a DA3000. I think it's SD. So it's the same machine, same converter, but the memory in it is much bigger. The max on my machine is 30 gig, and this is 500 gig. But otherwise, it's a really nice front end that records on an SD card. I don't have to worry about computers failing or anything like that. And then I have my outboard MyTech converter that I send the microphone signals into. And so it's very reliable, and it's just one button, but the Tascam's like a mastering recorder. And so I kind of tore my studio apart and all the cables, and I had all my good mics, my good Sony mics. What was it? I think they're the 100. There's the 100U and the 100N. Sony makes these amazing electret condenser mics, which I bought during the pandemic times, and they're pretty expensive now. They're about $1,200-1,300, and I got it like at half price at that time. And I tested them against my friends Neumann's, and I couldn't tell the difference. You know, they're real flat, real nice omnidirectional mics. So I'm going to be editing that, and I'll put up some of the performances online so you can check them out. And what else I was going to mention? Wanted to had a few things to talk about. One is what my old friend Mark Westcott used to call having a positive agenda when you play, and it's a little bit stuffy, a little stuffy way of saying it, but everybody gets nervous maybe when they play. But the best way not to get nervous is just to really be excited about what you're going to play, to really play something that you really like. You know, I really love Duke Ellington. It just makes me feel great. I can't play Take the A Train enough. I can't play Satin Doll enough. And I was thinking, well, why do I like these tunes so much? You know, why do they make me feel so good? And why do crowds like them? You know, crowds like them playing Duke's Place. You know, why? Well, there's a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons is, I think, that they tell a story. And the way they tell a story is with an introduction and an ending. Both of those songs really have a nice introduction and an ending. And even Duke's Place doesn't necessarily have an introduction, but it kind of builds. And I'll show you what I mean. I'm sure you've heard these in the past, but you know, take the A train. Isn't that a great melody? I mean, that is just so unique, but it's basically that chord. He delays the C, right? But it's that. But the introduction is, now that's a whole tone scale, right? And that's why I say, well, you know, why do I need to know these scales? Well, because they come in handy. That pen doesn't really work so well. I washed my eraser here. See, well, why do I need to learn a whole tone scale? Because Duke Ellington used it. And by the way, it starts on that E from the C chord. So depending on how you spell it, A flat, B flat, C, D, E. Okay, that's your whole tone scale: A flat, B flat, C, D, and E. That's your whole tone. That's the whole tone scale. Now, he doesn't just do that, though. He has this, it's called a pedal, P-E-D-A-L, a pedal tone. What's a pedal tone? Well, the word pedal actually comes from organ playing. So the pedals on an organ, that an organist would play with his feet. So that's pretty much what they had in mind. So the pedal tone in the bass is on every other beat. It's on 2 and 4. So it sounds like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and both go together. 1. I mean, that's the introduction. What a great introduction! You know, the song really doesn't start on count 1. 1, 1, 1, and this comes in on 1, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1. This is a long note. 1 and 2. And here's your flatted 5. Why a flat 5? That's the other part of that whole tone scale goes with D7 flat 5. That flat 5 chord. And you could do flat 5 and sharp 5. Why is it flat 5? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A is the 5th note in the key of D. So A flat is the flatted 5th. A sharp would be the sharp 5, or B flat, right? That's your whole tone. D minor 7, 6, 2, 5, and it does it again. And then the bridge is a 2, 5 to F. Outlines the chord. So you notice that the E becomes, you start adding a 9th up there. You might even do sharp 5, I said, right? He really milks that sound. A flat. And 6, 2, 5. So that's that's the gist of the tune. I'm sure you guys have heard a lot of that. But what also makes this tune great is the ending, right? Because it's got its own signature ending, and that signature ending, you know, almost encapsulates all of jazz. You know, when you hear it, and here it is. You know, it's. I mean, you don't get much more jazz than that, right? I mean, that's jazz, you know. That is just so cool. So when I play a tune like that, I'm so excited, I'm so eager to play it, because I know that people are going to like it no matter what, even if they've heard it 100 times. And so I'm not thinking about anything other than just having a good time. I'm not thinking about if I play the wrong notes, or if people hate me, or if, because I already will, right? But I'm not nervous necessarily. That's what the positive agenda, right? So, and the preparation is part of it too. When you prepare properly, right? So that's the other part of the equation. You know, you want to play things that you feel connected with and prepared, and they really go together. You know, they're really hard to separate preparation from connection. The preparation is developing the connection with the piece, right? Because we didn't write these pieces. I'm not good enough to write these pieces. It's not even a matter of good enough or bad enough. It's just somebody's viewpoint of how to live a life. Kind of. That's what when I think of Duke Ellington, I think there's a guy, you know, if I could get to, they say, well, if you could have dinner with anyone, right? If you want to meet anyone, you know, I would love to meet Duke Ellington. I really would. I can't, I mean, I suppose there are, if I thought about it, there'd be a lot of people I'd probably want to meet, but I just he really is at the top of my list. He's just so, they use the word elegant, but, you know, you just think he was just so full of life and really exemplified what it means to be a great person and to have a great attitude and to make people feel good. And, you know, same thing with Satin Doll. Satin Doll also, by the way, a lot of his pieces are in the key of C. I don't know why. Satin Doll's in C, Take the A Train's in C, C Jam Blues, which is Duke's Place, is in C. And they're easy enough, especially C Jam Blues, where you can transpose. You know, you're playing a tune for several choruses, just go up a half step or a step, and, you know, you get that little bit of a lift. By the way, some people actually would go down a key. Was it Nelson Riddle? I think it was Nelson Riddle, the arranger, the great arranger, would sometimes at the end of a song go, you know, go down, which is a little unusual. But, you know, Satin Doll, you know, was this. So D minor 7, G7, A minor 7, E7, A minor 7, flat 5, D7, A flat minor 7, D flat 7, and then C. Right? Some people might have a different way of playing, but that's the basic tune, right? But it doesn't start that way. It starts with the introduction. The introduction is. That's the introduction, and it also has the pedal tone. A7. Very similar to Take the A Train, isn't it? Got same pedal tone. Right hand starts on the E, right? You know, it's impossible to separate the two tunes, really. And what is this sound? I mean, that's kind of like those big grandfather clocks, like those chimes, like, you know, church bells ringing out, you know. So already he's planting a seed of a story, you know, in your mind, right at the get-go, right at the start. And the bridge is what was it? Very, very similar to Take the A Train, but the bridge is. So it goes to F, just like Take the A Train did. It's uncanny. What was the? Nobody. Then it goes up to A minor 7. A minor 7, D7. There's your D minor right there. See, there's your. And then sometimes you hear switcheroonie on the A. And then the end again. There's the ending. The tune wouldn't be the same if you didn't have a great intro and an ending. It's just you can't. There are a lot of tunes that are written with introductions or verses for that matter, because they come from Broadway, right? Nobody knows them. We should know them, maybe. There's some verses which are really lovely, but nobody knows them. But it would be impossible to separate that introduction and that ending from those tunes. And yet we tend to think of introductions and endings as just, well, we have an introduction, we have an ending, so what? We don't, let's just start on the top of the tune. I don't know. It really helps. It really helps. So again, knowing the verse of the tune, not just starting on the head. People who grew up in my parents' era and knew where a lot of these tunes came from, who came from Broadway shows, well, they had verses that would lead the song, would transition right from the dialogue to the music. You needed a transition. It just otherwise you just get jerked into a song, and sometimes the verses were just sort of throwaways, but sometimes they were really interesting. They were really, really important. Wanted to touch on something and switch gears for a little bit. My last week's lesson was maybe a little scattered, a little muddled. I was onto something, and I couldn't quite articulate it, but I'm going to clarify something a little bit, because I've really, everybody has their thing that maybe their Achilles heel is the thing that they're not quite clear on. My thing was always the minor 7 flat 5 chord and how to really negotiate that properly, and I kind of did things instinctually, but is it instinctually or instinctively? Which is it? Write in and tell me. Oh, and by the way, I should mention, I contacted YouTube. I don't talk to YouTube ever, but I contacted the customer service because for the longest time, I always used to get notifications, email notifications that people posted a comment. And then I would reply because I'd know that they posted. Well, I was perplexed as to why that wasn't happening. Well, I went online and they told me that they got rid of that feature. They didn't tell anyone. They didn't ask our permission. They said, well, we did it because it makes YouTube better. I don't know why it makes YouTube better. I don't know why they didn't tell anyone, but they didn't. So that's what's going on. I don't know if any of you guys have noticed that. But yeah, when someone posts a comment, I don't get an email. So I have to actually go into my comments and look to see. Okay. But anyway, let's talk about the minor 7 flat 5 chord and some good strategies to deal with that chord. And I'll talk about a couple ways real quick. I'm not gonna really, go crazy with this, but I think I have a concise solution. So here we go. So let's just take a chord like, for instance, let's take B minor 7, B minor 7 flat 5. That looks more like a B, doesn't it? B minor 7 flat 5. B, D, F, and A. All right. Typically, now that would be the 7 chord. For those of you who understand diatonic harmony, that would be the 7 chord in the key of C. Right? Because if we take the notes of the C scale and we go up the scale with 7 chords, that's the 7th one. So it's important to understand the context of the chord. Now, what I would do as a general strategy, all right? Typically, what people think of, you're starting on the 7th chord. Well, you could use the 7th mode. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What is that? Well, that's Lydian. So Lydian, right? That is effectively the notes of the C major scale, notes of a major scale, just starting on the 7th degree. Another way to think of it is if you take the B major scale, right? You make all those notes white, right? You're flatting the 2nd, the 3rd, the 5th, the 6th, the 7th. That's a double flat, actually. 2nd, 3rd, let's see, 5th, 6th, and then, this would be, let's see, no, sorry, that's not double flat. That's a flat, you're flatting that to A natural. A from A sharp to A natural, because it would be B, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B, all right? So that's another way to think of it. Flat 2, flat 3, flat 5, flat 6, and flat 7. I really find that hard to deal with. I don't really like that. And it doesn't really sound that great. And this is the thing about, you got to use your ear. You know, when I just find through experience that that's a Phrygian tetrachord right there. That's the first 4 notes of the B, C, D, E, right? That's your Phrygian. That's the Phrygian tetrachord. So you got your half step right there. I don't think that sounds good. So here's what you do. Take this chord, make it into add the 9th. It may sound strange. If you put it in that context, it really sounds beautiful. That's C sharp. So we're going to add a 9th into that, all right? And what we're going to do is, if we're adding the 9th there, we certainly don't want a C natural, right? That's just going to clash. So we're going to change this Phrygian mode, and we're going to put our sharp there, okay? It's no longer Phrygian now. What is it? You're going to tell me? It is minor. It's B minor, because now the half step is between 2 and 3. And if you listen to the chord, it sounds much better. Then it doesn't sound good. That sounds interesting. That much more interesting. Now, what's the other half of the equation? That's the other tetrachord. What is that? Well, that's the tetrachord that we started with today. It's a miniature whole tone scale. That's an augmented fourth. F, G, A, B natural. That is an augmented fourth, right? That's the whole tone. So if you take a Phrygian, if you take a minor and the whole tone, that's what you get to deal with. Now, what if you built a scale on the D? that's minor. D, E, F, G. D, E, F, G. That's minor. What if you built a scale on the F? Well, we already did that. That's the whole tone. What if you built a scale on the A? A, B, C sharp, D. A, yeah. A, B, C sharp, D. That's major. That's major. So that's a way to remember. This is just a big mess, isn't it? If I see the chord B minor 7 flat 5, I'm going to add a ninth automatically, and I'm going to think of a minor tetrachord. I'm going to think of a whole tone, right? Whole tone that's a Lydian because of this sharp 4. Or I could think of a minor and a major, a minor and a major. What is that? That is a melodic minor. Oh, there's our melodic minor scale. Look at that. That's our D melodic minor scale. So this scale that I'm creating here, and we're going down a little bit of a rabbit hole. Don't lose me yet, but what we're playing is a melodic minor scale. It's a mode of a melodic minor scale. We're building it on the 6th note of the D melodic minor scale. So D, E, F, G, A, B, that's the 6th note. That's practicing. To me, that's kind of like getting used to. So when you go to play, you're confident. You've done your homework. You sort of know what you're dealing with. All right, I gotta go. I'm running out of time. This is Jonathan, the piano lesson, and I hope you guys are having a great summer. Just not much left of it, so make the most of it. And we'll see you next time. Till then, drop me a line at thepianolesson.com or on my video. Bye-bye.